Welcome, 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 welcome to.
Good afternoon, and welcome to Clifton's Corner. Last time on Clifton's Corner, we delved into the mystic realm of underwater basket weaving. As per usual, we take in letters all the time. We get letters from tons of college students. This week, however, an interesting one came across my desk. There's a young girl at FSU who wrote in asking about hookup culture, which was a term that I had not known. She couldn't find love. Everyone just wanted to hook up. For those of you who don't know what a hookup is a casual sexual encounter between two individuals that occurs outside of a romantic relationship that does not necessarily involve sexual penetration. When I was researching this topic, I came across a study that talked about precisely this, hookup culture. We've brought in 4 guests that represent each demographic that this study aimed to prove. I thought I would do a study of my own. Let's see if it's true. Our first guest is Alana Douglas, an actuarial science major from FSU. Alana, tell us about yourself.
Well, thanks for having me, Clifton. My name is
Welcome.
Alana Douglas. I'm a junior majoring in actuarial science here at Florida State University.
Okay.
I'm the middle child of 3 children, and both of my parents are married and in the military.
Wow, that's great.
Mhm.
So, how do you like FSU? What's your love life like? Tell us.
Oh my gosh. Well, I love Florida State. My love life is kind of non-existent.
Oh,
Yeah, it's kind of hard trying to find relationships here.
what do you mean?
Well, there's the hookup scene at Florida State is kind of bad, and in a sense, do you know how many black students are enrolled at Florida State?
I don't.
Okay, so of the 40,000 students that are
Wow.
here, only 8% of them are black, and within that 8%, only 5% are women, and the other 3% are men.
That's so interesting. So, how do you think this has affected you?
I think because of a personal preference and what I look for,
Mm-hmm.
and this overlooming stigmatism that kind of just hovers above minorities on a daily basis.
Right.
It's definitely hindered my ability to be able to actually go out and date and actually find that special someone.
Right. Okay. Wow. This is so interesting.
Mhm.
So, could you elaborate a little bit just on the race preference thing?
Yeah, okay. So studies have shown that due to race preference dating, and that it's actually become a lot harder for people of my background and my ethnicity to find partners, given that we're minorities on campus and that we're only looking for each other.
Can you elaborate a little for me, Alana?
Yeah, of course. So studies have proven that race-based partner preferences affect social desirability, and therefore there's structural constraints in desirability.
Mm-hmm.
So, and in partnering. So women of color may participate in less partnering than white women because white and Hispanic men tend to desire sexual qualities of those of white women.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, would you say it's harder for women than men?
Maybe not for all women.
Okay.
Maybe specifically on women of color.
Okay.
Because throughout the years and even now, those certain characteristics of women of color have always been undesirable towards normal society, and because of that, it tends to make it hard because we're not exactly who everyone wants to date.
Okay, I see. Wow, okay. So now that we've understood that, would you say that the likeliness of black women hooking up on campus is less likely than other demographics?
Yeah, definitely. I think another thing that creates the less likelihood of that happening is this. Okay, so the stereotype of, even though black women tend to be undesirable, there's these looming stereotypes that over sexualize black women, and because of that, we try to restrain from the stereotypes that have been created for us as a Jezebel,
Mm-hmm.
or basically a whore, and all of those other different types of stereotypes. And because we're trying to avoid them, we tend to just make sure that we don't participate in at all also, because just to not give another person a reason to justify their beliefs in the first place.
Right. Okay. Wow, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
So, for you specifically, would you say that hooking up has replaced dating?
Based on what I see at my campus and like all of my friends, I definitely have to say yeah.
Wow. Thank you, Alana.
No problem. Thanks for
So
having
great.
me.
Alana raised some really great points. Before our next guest, let's take a message from one of our sponsors. Let's meet our next guest. So, Mitchell, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'm a senior international affairs major at University of North Florida in Jacksonville. There's not too much to know. I was born in the Netherlands. My parents are extremely Roman Catholic. Moved to Dallas when I was 7, moved to Jackson when I was 14, and just been pursuing my interests ever since.
That's cool. So, how do you think religious affiliation affects your relationships in today's society?
Well, the funny thing that I've noticed is that regardless of what religious affiliation me or any of my friends have, we always end up sitting right around par in regards to how we deal with our relationships.
Okay.
More so than religious affiliation, religious attendance and, religious faith and piety and belief affect your culture and dating more so than anything else in regards to religion.
Okay. So, how do you think that it differs for men who are religious versus, women who are religious?
Well, that's funny actually. Men who are extremely religious and women who are religious, it again both relates to how often you attend church. The least likely of all people to hook up is a woman that attends church once a month. Because when women go to church, when men go to church, you're not just going, to express your religious belief. You're actually going to create a social structure. You're getting a social environment, you're networking, and you're also networking with people who have same beliefs. So while culturally, it might talk down, hooking up, it, really promotes abstinence and everything right along that line.
Makes sense.
However, you're also culturally putting yourself in an environment where you're going to meet people who are like you, you're going to create same networks. So while you're less likely to hook up if you go to church very often, you are actually a little bit more likely to be in long-term relationships. Yes.
Okay, that makes sense. So you're saying that frequent attendance to church affects hooking up in the sense that, well, depending on your religion, but most likely if you go to church, if you're a woman, you go to church once a month, you're less likely to hook up and more likely to have a long-term relationship?
Yeah, and it's not even really dependent on the religion. It's
not, okay.
purely dependent on church attendance. That's not if you're Islam, Jewish, Hindu, Catholic, Mormon. I mean, of course you're going to have culturally different barriers. You're going to be looking at the religions in different manners. But end of the day, those haven't been shown to have any effect in the studies that we've had. What has shown to affect is how often you attend church.
Okay, interesting. So how does, or why does religion not universally lead to a more conservative relationship habit?
Well, I think that, again, goes back to the social context you're putting yourself in. You would think that if you're learning about something that teaches abstinence, you're culturally around people who have been taught the same thing that you've been taught, that you would naturally become a little more conservative in the way you act. However, it's, again, going back to human nature where you put yourself around people like you, you're going to end up becoming more likely to form intimate relationships. And regardless of you being in a religious environment, that's still reflected in regards to church time.
So Mitchell, one last question for you. In your opinion, do you believe that hookups have replaced dating?
That's a difficult question, but I think that dating still has its spot, its little niche in society, but I would say while it used to be dating is more the consistent answer and hookups the more, short-term so-and-so answer, in today's world, you're still going to have dating, it hasn't been replaced, but I would say hookup culture has become exponentially more prominent, yes.
Well, that's great. Thank you so much, Mitchell. Unfortunately, Our other guest, Emily, could not be here today, but it's very exciting. She's a member of the LGBTQ community, and she has some great insight to this hookup culture, and I'm really looking forward to see what she has to say. I sent her some questions, so we'll see how that turns out.
Hi, Clifton. As a bisexual college student, I want to find a long-term relationship, but doing that on campus is really hard with the stigma that surrounds the LGBT plus community when it comes to dating. Most people think that being gay, lesbian, bisexual, or any sexual orientation other than straight means that you're sexually promiscuous and don't want a long-term relationship. And although sometimes that can be true, studies show that students who fall under the LGBT plus umbrella typically want a relationship as much or even more than a cisgender student. And as a woman, I know I'm more likely to be looking for that long-term relationship because the whole ticking time clock of fidelity that's been installed in me since birth. But all other people think is that being bisexual means I have more opportunities to find a partner rather than a straight or even a homosexual student. Because a lot of people think that, they also think that being bisexual means I hook up with more people because I have more options to choose from. However, the likelihood of me having a hookup, say, a date, or even a long-term relationship is the same as a lesbian student. And it's not just me. It's proven that gay students are 50% more likely to be in or looking for a long-term relationship during college rather than straight students.
We're talking to one another. This is really good. Super
Oh,
good.
great.
So we have one last Emily for today. She's here on behalf of Greek culture. So Emily, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, Clifton, first of all, thanks for having me.
No, you're
Sorry I was
welcome.
a little late this morning.
That's okay.
Our formal was last night. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but anyway, I am a sophomore at Appalachian State
Wow,
University
okay.
in the mountains of North Carolina. I am studying public relations there. I'm loving it.
Yeah?
Having a great time, and I am the song chair of Zeta 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 International Sorority.
That's great.
Yeah, we have some famous alum. It's super cool. You should check us out.
That's super awesome.
Yeah.
So, Emily, how do you think that this Greek culture, this Greek life, promotes a hookup culture?
Well, Clifton, I'm gonna be really honest with you when I tell you that I honestly hate talking about this subject because I know that I feel and my sisters feel and the men I know who are in fraternities feel like this is really the hottest topic surrounding our life. People don't usually choose to talk about our philanthropies. They don't talk about our social events. It's really just they're so interested in our love lives and sex lives. But I'm not saying they don't have the grounds to be interested. Hookup culture, meaning like hooking up instead of as opposed to relationships. It's a very interesting phenomenon in the Greek world because a lot of people don't realize that we're very into both.
Okay.
I would say that's the biggest factor is that we're often accused of just being super into casual hookups when really, while we are more likely than the general populace to engage in hookups, we are also more likely to be dating.
Okay.
Yeah, so for example, I know we're for women, we're twice as likely to engage in hookups and twice as likely also to have dating to be dating someone as women who are not involved in Greek cultures. For men, I think it's a little higher for the men in the fraternities whom I know. I think their statistic is closer to 3. They're 3 times as likely to engage in hookups, and they're almost 2.5 times as likely to be dating women, which is really interesting because I feel like no one thinks about that.
No.
That we're likely to do both.
Right, and just out of curiosity, I know that you said that your formal was last night. How do you think, engaging in formals and events and stuff like that, how do you think that really causes more hookups or more dating? Like, do you have an opinion on
I think
that?
it causes both. So, for example, I know that for Zeta Zeta Zeta, we have an online Facebook page where we just foster and facilitate and set up dates.
Okay.
And some of them are I know that last year one of my sisters took a random fraternity man to formal, and now they're engaged. So it can work out. It can result in a lot of long-term relationships.
Right, yeah.
But also, I have some sisters, and I know that women in other sororities who will take fraternity men on formals, and the night just ends maybe with a hookup, and they don't really continue on. They just, honestly, they hook up and they just move on. And you see a nearly equal amount of both in the Greek community.
Okay, so for our viewers who might not know, what a formal is, could you just explain a formal, a social, just really quickly bubble it?
So that's another thing, another reason why, even though we maybe don't like to talk about our love lives as much as people force us to, we really kind of invite it upon ourselves, because formals, date functions, socials, all of that provide us with opportunities to have a +1. We can take dates on those things, and it's really just a way to meet other people who are involved in the Greek community.
Right. So you would rent out a venue or something. It's kind of like like a dance or a prom or a homecoming or something, but
it's really just prom for college students. You get to go to prom, 4 more times.
Yeah, and sometimes you link up with other fraternities only. So for girls who might not know a man in that fraternity, then they meet someone new, and it kind of snowballs. Correct?
Right, and that's another statistic too. Is that another interesting fact is that we tend to date within the Greek community as well.
Right.
A lot of the time.
What else are you gonna do? So. You mentioned that you all want to date, so I'm guessing you do not think that hooking up has replaced dating?
That's a rough question, because as I mentioned, the Greek culture seems to be very into both.
Right.
But I do know that, at least for women, as a woman, sorority women are 2 times as likely to want to date. So while it may not be happening, we do genuinely want to date. And so I wouldn't say it's gone as far as replacing. I would just say it's more of like a different aspect for us. We view it some sisters view it as a stepping process. They may be hooking up with the same person consistently, and that could lead to a date. The only downside to relationships within the Greek community, I think, is that while we tend to be dating more often than people outside of the Greek community, our relationships seem to be more short-lived, maybe. So that could be a drawback. So has it replaced dating? That's hard to say, since we engage in both hooking up and dating so frequently. But I have hope that, if it's what you enjoy, do what you enjoy. If you want a serious relationship, the opportunity is definitely there. If you're more into hooking up and casual lifestyle, that opportunity is here for us as well. So it's really just what you're into.
Thank you so much. So one final question for you is, after we've thought about all of this, do you believe that college campuses promote this kind of hookup culture in a way? Final answer.
Promote in a sense that it's a grouping of kids who are close to one another, both in age and proximity. Physical closeness, as well as like Appalachian's a very liberal campus. I know that you had some guests from like Florida earlier. Those are very liberal campuses. Anytime you have a group of people who are together, it's gonna encourage like relations, as well as I feel like they harp on social media. We all do, but it really does. Websites like Tinder, Grindr, Twitter DM, Snapchat, like all of those things, not as much promote, but maybe encourage, and I think it enables a hookup culture, which is why I think that everyone's quick to jump on the bandwagon bus. The justified standpoint that hooking up has perhaps replaced dating. So I think that's really how that all relates back to one another.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you, Emily. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Clifton's Corner. So today we really wanted to understand this article that I came across, which is, we're going to roll it in the credits. So I encourage you to look at it and take a look at it, because what our guest said today really encapsulated what this article was trying to say, which is very interesting. So I recommend you guys check that out. Next time on Clifton's Corner, does knitting actually help arthritis? Find out.
Bang, bang into the